Get out of my house. Obina's voice cracked like thunder through the rain. Take that cursed child and leave before I do something worse. Amara stood trembling in the doorway, her pregnant belly pressing against her thin wrapper. Rain poured from the dark sky, soaking the ground outside. Her small daughter clung to her leg, crying softly. Please, Obina, she whispered. Where will we go? I am carrying your child. He turned his back to her. That thing inside you is probably not even mine. Look at what you gave me the first time. He pointed at their daughter with disgust. An ugly, sickly creature that shames me everywhere I go. The villagers gathering outside whispered among themselves. Some covered their mouths in shock. Others shook their heads. Leave now, Obina said coldly. Before I throw you out myself. But this was not how their story began. Before this rain, before this rage, before this rejection, there was something beautiful. There was trust. There was love. Or at least, there seemed to be. Let me tell you how we arrived here. Before everything fell apart, Amara was the pride of our village. Not just for her beauty, though she was lovely. No, she was admired for something deeper. She was respectful. She was kind. She was disciplined. Every morning, she woke before the sun touched the sky. She fetched water without complaint. She greeted every elder properly, bending her knees, lowering her eyes. When younger girls misbehaved, their mothers would scold them by saying, "Why can't you be like Amara?" She never raised her voice. She never gossiped at the stream. She never chased men or wore clothing that drew too much attention. She carried herself like a daughter raised well. And because of this, the village trusted her. Mothers pointed her out to their daughters. See how she walks? See how she speaks? That is how a proper woman behaves. Even the elders nodded with approval whenever she passed. That girl will make a good wife someday, they said. Her husband will be blessed. No one doubted her character. No one questioned her heart. She was the standard by which others were measured. And then, Obina noticed her. Obina was not a poor man. He had land. He had a good name. He had respect in the village because his father had been a strong man before him. When Obina decided he wanted Amara, he did not approach her carelessly. No. He did things the right way. The way tradition demanded. He visited her father's house with gifts. Kola nuts. Palm wine. Yams from his farm. He sat with her father under the big tree and spoke respectfully about his intentions. I want to marry your daughter, he said. I will protect her. I will provide for her. I will never bring shame to her or to your family. Her father was pleased. Her mother smiled with relief. A man like Obina, with land and a good reputation, was a blessing. Obina visited often after that. He spoke to Amara gently, always in the presence of her family. He promised her a home. He promised her children. He promised her a life of honor and respect. I will never let you suffer, he told her one evening as the sun set behind the trees. You will be my wife, and I will treasure you. Amara believed him. Why wouldn't she? He had done everything properly. The wedding day was beautiful. Not grand, but filled with joy. The whole village gathered to celebrate. Women sang songs of fertility and blessing. Men clapped and danced. Children ran between the crowds, laughing and chasing one another. Elders laid their hands on Amara and Obina, praying for many children, long life, and a peaceful home. May your union bring fruit, they said. May your house never know hunger or shame. Amara wore a bright wrapper her mother had saved for years. Her face glowed with hope. Obina stood tall beside her, proud to have won such a woman. After the ceremony, they walked together to his compound. Villagers threw blessings after them. Drums echoed into the night. Fires burned bright as people celebrated until the moon climbed high. That night, Amara lay beside her new husband and felt safe. She felt chosen. She felt loved. "We will be happy," Obina whispered to her in the darkness. And she believed him. But happiness, we would all soon learn, is a fragile thing. It can crack without warning. It can shatter without sound. 3 months after the wedding, Amara discovered she was pregnant. The news spread quickly through the village. Women ululated with joy. Obina's chest swelled with pride. "I will have a son," he told his friends at the village square. "A strong boy who looks like me." But pregnancy did not treat Amara gently. From the very first weeks, sickness consumed her. She could not keep food down. She grew weak. She grew tired. Her body ached in ways she could not explain. Still, she did not complain. She woke early. She fetched water, though her legs trembled. She cooked, though the smell of food made her stomach turn. She swept the compound, though dizziness blurred her vision. Obina watched her struggling but said little. "It will pass," he assured her. "All women go through this." But it did not pass. As the months went on, Amara grew thinner instead of fuller. Her cheeks sank. Her eyes lost their brightness. Her skin, once smooth and glowing, became dry and dull. The villagers began to notice. By the 5th month, whispers started. Women at the stream glanced at Amara with concern. Some with pity. Others with suspicion. "She does not look well," one woman said quietly. "Pregnancy should make a woman glow," another replied. "But look at her. She looks like she is dying." "Maybe it is the baby," someone whispered. "Maybe the child is taking everything from her." The whispers grew louder. Some said it was normal. Others said it was strange. A few older women shook their heads and muttered about spiritual things they did not fully understand but feared nonetheless. Amara heard the whispers. She felt the stares. But she said nothing. She kept her head down and continued her work. Obina, too, began to change. He no longer touched her the way he used to. He no longer smiled when she entered the room. He looked at her now with something close to confusion, as though she had become someone he did not recognize. "You need to eat more," he told her one evening, frustration creeping into his voice. "I try," she said softly. "But I cannot keep anything down." He sighed and turned away. When labor finally came, the entire village waited. Women gathered outside the hut, praying, whispering, hoping. Obina paced near the door, his face tight with anticipation. Hours passed. Amara's screams echoed into the night. And then, finally, silence. A baby's weak cry broke the stillness. The midwife stepped outside, her face unreadable. She handed the baby to Obina without a word. He looked down at the child, and his expression changed. The baby was tiny. Frail. Its face was sunken, its skin pale and thin. It did not look like the strong, beautiful child he had imagined. Disappointment flooded his eyes. The women gathered around, trying to say kind things. "She is alive. That is what matters. She will grow stronger. Praise God for safe delivery." But Obina barely listened. He handed the baby back to the midwife and walked away. Inside the hut, Amara held her daughter for the first time. Tears rolled down her hollow cheeks. She had hoped this birth would bring joy. She had hoped it would heal the distance growing between her and her husband. But when Obina finally entered the hut, he did not smile. He did not hold the child. He simply looked at them both and left. After the birth, the house grew cold. Not from weather, but from silence. Obina stopped speaking to Amara unless he had to. He stopped sitting with her in the evenings. He stopped eating the food she prepared. When the baby cried, he left the house. When Amara called his name, he pretended not to hear. He avoided her as though she carried a disease. At night, he slept on the far edge of the mat, his back turned to her. In the mornings, he left early and returned late, smelling of palm wine and other women's perfume. Amara tried everything. She cooked his favorite meals. She cleaned the house until it shone. She dressed their daughter in the brightest cloth she could find, hoping it would make him smile. Nothing worked. The baby, too, did not thrive. She ate little. She cried often. She grew slowly. Villagers who visited looked at the child with pity, and some with fear. Something is wrong with that child, they whispered when Amara was not listening. Obina heard the whispers. And instead of defending his wife, instead of protecting his daughter, he began to believe them. Shame crept into his heart. And shame, unchecked, turns into cruelty. One evening, Obina returned home drunk. His eyes were red. His breath stank of anger and alcohol. He stood in the doorway, staring at Amara as she rocked the baby to sleep. "Tell me the truth," he said, his voice low and dangerous. Amara looked up, confused. "Truth about what?" "That child." He pointed at the baby. "Is she really mine?" The words hit her like a slap. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Because she does not look like me," Obina continued. "She does not look like anyone in my family. And you?" He stepped closer. "You have changed. You are not the woman I married." "Obina, please," Amara whispered, her voice shaking. "How can you say such things? You know I have been faithful. You know this child is yours." He laughed bitterly. "Do I? Because the woman I married was beautiful. Strong. Now look at you. You are a shadow. A skeleton. Maybe something evil has entered you. Maybe you brought a curse into my house." Tears filled Amara's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "I have done nothing wrong. This is your child. Our child." But Obina did not want to hear it. He had already made up his mind. Not long after, a younger woman appeared in Obina's life. Her name was Chitty, and she was everything Amara was not. Young. Vibrant. Full of energy and laughter. She had smooth skin. Bright eyes. A body untouched by pregnancy or suffering. She moved through the village like sunlight, drawing attention wherever she went. Obina was seen with her often. At the market. At the drinking spots. Walking together in the evenings as though they had no shame. The villagers gossiped endlessly. Has Obina forgotten he has a wife? That poor woman, Amara, suffering at home while he parades around with Chitty. But no one confronted him. No elder stepped in. No one reminded him of his vows. Amara heard the rumors. She saw them together once, from a distance. Chitty's hand resting on Obina's arm. His smile wide and genuine, the way it used to be when he looked at her. Her heart broke quietly. No screaming. No confrontation. Just silent, crushing grief. And then, one morning, Amara woke up feeling sick again. The same nausea. The same dizziness. She was pregnant. Again. When Amara told Obina, his reaction was not joy. It was fury. He stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "What did you say?" "I am pregnant," she repeated, her voice trembling. His face twisted with disgust. No. No, this cannot be happening. "Obina, this is a blessing." "A blessing?" He laughed harshly. "You gave me one cursed child already. Now you want to trap me with another?" Amara stepped back, fear rising in her chest. "These are your children. How can you speak like this?" "My children?" He moved closer, his voice rising. "That thing in the other room does not even look human. And now you tell me there is another one coming? How do I know it is even mine?" The accusation felt like a knife. Amara's legs weakened. "You know I have never been with another man. You know this." But Obina did not care about truth. He cared about escape. He cared about Chitty. He cared about the life he wanted, not the life he had. You have destroyed me, he spat. You have brought shame and ugliness into my house. I want you gone. The rain started in the late afternoon. Heavy. Relentless. The sky turned dark, and thunder rolled across the village like drums of war. Obina dragged Amara to the door. She clutched her daughter in one arm, her pregnant belly heavy and aching. Please, Obina, she begged. Do not do this. Not in the rain. Not like this. But he was unmoved. His eyes were cold. His heart was stone. Get out, he said. Take your cursed child and leave my house. Villagers gathered despite the rain, standing under trees and doorways, watching the scene unfold. Some looked horrified. Others whispered prayers. But no one intervened. No elder stepped forward. No neighbor offered shelter. Amara stood in the rain, soaked and trembling, holding her daughter close. She looked at her husband one last time, searching his face for anything, mercy, love, regret. But there was nothing. She turned and walked into the storm. Her feet sank into the mud. Her daughter cried against her chest. Rain poured down like the heavens themselves were weeping. Behind her, Obina slammed the door shut. And the village stood silent, watching her disappear into the darkness. Amara could have gone to her parents' house. It was not far. They would have taken her in. But she could not bear it. Her father was a proud man. A respected man. If she arrived at his door, pregnant, abandoned, shamed in front of the entire village, it would break him. She could not do that to him. She could not bring that disgrace into her family's name. So instead, she walked past her father's compound. She walked past the homes of relatives. She walked until she reached the edge of the village, where an old, abandoned hut stood half-collapsed among the trees. No one lived there. No one wanted it. The roof had holes. The walls were cracked. But it was shelter. Barely. She pushed open the broken door and stepped inside. The floor was dirt. The air smelled of decay. Rain dripped through the roof in several places. Amara set her daughter down gently. The little girl cried, cold and confused. Shoo, Amara whispered, though her own tears were falling. We will be all right. We will survive this. But even as she said the words, she did not know if she believed them. Days became weeks. Amara survived on scraps. Neighbors who pitied her left food outside the hut at night, anonymous acts of kindness they did not want Obina to know about. She rationed everything. A handful of Gary. A piece of dried fish. Just enough to keep herself and her daughter alive. The rain continued. Water leaked through the roof, soaking their only mat. Amara tried to cover the holes with leaves and old cloth, but it was never enough. Her daughter grew weaker. The child ate little. Cried often. Her small body shivered constantly from cold and hunger. Amara's own body was failing. Her pregnancy was draining what little strength she had left. Her belly grew, but the rest of her shrank. Her arms were thin as sticks. Her face was hollow. At night, she lay awake, one hand on her daughter, the other on her swollen stomach, praying. Please, she whispered into the darkness. Let this child be strong. Let this child survive. She did not pray for herself anymore. Only for her children. And then, one night, the pains began. Labor came suddenly and violently. Amara gasped, clutching her stomach as the first contraction tore through her. Her daughter woke, frightened by her mother's cries. Mama? Stay there, Amara managed to say. Do not move. There was no midwife. No helping hands. No warm water or clean cloths. Just Amara, alone in the darkness, biting down on a piece of wood to keep from screaming too loud. Hours passed. Pain consumed her. Her body trembled. Sweat poured down her face despite the cold. And then, finally, the baby came. Amara caught the child in her own hands, gasping, sobbing, shaking. She wrapped the newborn in the only dry cloth she had left. For a moment, she could not look. She was too afraid. Afraid the baby would be sickly like the first. Afraid it would not survive the night. But then the baby cried, strong and loud, and Amara's heart stopped. She looked down. The child was beautiful. Healthy. Glowing. Perfectly formed. And unmistakably Obina's child. The resemblance was undeniable. Amara wept, holding the baby close. By morning, news had spread through the village. Amara had given birth. Alone. In the abandoned hut. Curious villagers came to see. They stood outside, whispering, peering through the cracks in the walls. And when they saw the baby, they gasped. That child looks exactly like Obina, one woman said. There is no question, another agreed. That is his son. The news traveled fast. Within hours, it reached Obina's ears. At first, he did not believe it. But when his friends confirmed it, when they described the baby's face, his heart sank. He had accused Amara of unfaithfulness. He had called her children cursed. He had thrown her out, convinced the second child would be just like the first. But now the entire village knew the truth. The baby was his. Healthy. Beautiful. Strong. And he had abandoned them. Shame, real shame, finally touched Obina's heart. Not because he regretted hurting Amara. But because the village was talking. Because his reputation was crumbling. He had to fix this. He had to bring her back. Not out of love. Out of pride. Obina arrived at the hut 3 days later. He stood in the doorway, staring at Amara as she sat on the floor, nursing the baby. Amara, he said quietly. She looked up. Her eyes were empty. No anger. No hope. Just exhaustion. I was wrong, he continued. I was foolish. Come back home. Bring the children. Let us start again. For a long moment, Amara said nothing. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw what he was. A man who loved her only when it suited him. A man who had thrown her away when she needed him most. A man who returned only because the village was watching. No, she said softly. Obina blinked, shocked. What? I said no. Her voice was steady now. I will not come back. Amara, be reasonable. You have nowhere to go. You need me. She shook her head slowly. I needed you before. When I was suffering. When I was pregnant and alone. You were not there. Now I do not need you anymore. You are being foolish, he said, frustration rising. Think of the children. I am thinking of them, she replied. And I will not raise them in a house where their mother is hated. Obina stared at her, disbelief written across his face. Then he turned and walked away. Months passed. Amara did not return to Obina. Instead, she moved to a neighboring village where no one knew her story. She started small, selling vegetables at the market, doing washing for wealthier families. Slowly, painfully, she rebuilt her life. Her children grew. Her daughter, though still frail, smiled more. Her son thrived, strong and healthy. And Amara, despite everything, began to heal. Her face regained some of its softness. Her spirit, though scarred, grew steady. Obina's life, however, fell apart. Chidi left him when his money ran low. His friends stopped respecting him. Villagers whispered about the man who threw out his pregnant wife and then begged her to return. He grew bitter. Lonely. Regretful. At night, he sat alone in his empty house, staring at the door, waiting for a family that would never return. And Amara, far away, rocked her children to sleep and whispered, "We survived. We are free." The village learned a lesson that year. A woman abandoned does not always fall. Sometimes she rises. And a man who chooses cruelty over love does not always win. Sometimes he loses everything. And fate, quiet and patient, ensures the balance is kept.